That's what a group of black leaders is saying about the man seen in the video slapping another man. Now, he hasn't been arrested, and they argue that he caused the chain reaction leading to everything else.
So we have covered the so-called Cincinnati brawl on this channel multiple different times. In reality, it is black mob violence against 6 white individuals, which can be seen on the video from multiple different angles, and is one of the most clear and obvious cases of an unjustified mob attack that you can possibly have. And we talked about how all these different various people are going out of their way to bend over backwards in order to cater to the attackers. And the reason they're doing this is because the attackers in this particular instance are black individuals, and they don't like the way that that looks. So they're trying to figure out a way to justify white people being the victims of this attack and essentially blame them for the black mob violence that was inflicted upon them. Now, we did an entire video on the Cincinnati City Councilwoman who posted on Facebook in a reply to a comment that the white people were asking for the beating, thanking whatever random dumbass commenter that told her this narrative for giving her the quote-unquote whole story. Well, now that has escalated. We have the vice mayor that we talked about before basically going on the local news and saying that the reason why this instance of black mob violence is bad is because it gives people a negative perception of downtown Cincinnati where this occurred, and it's an accurate perception. And of course, we talked about the police chief blaming everything and anything but the attackers in this particular instance, including claiming that the establishments that may have served people alcohol overserved them as a mechanism to start this whole chaos.
Still an open investigation, and all potential charges are being investigated for everyone involved. All investigative tools and techniques are on the table, including, were some of these individuals overserved at some local establishments? It is clear to us that alcohol played a part, a significant part, in this incident.
Now it's gone even further. Now multiple black representatives, including a pastor, have decided to come out and demand charges against the white people who were attacked by these black people because they believe that they're the victims of racism, because in one moment of this video, a white person called a black person the N-word. And by the way, I've broken down this video. I have looked through this. This is in the middle of the fight. So in the middle of being attacked, this white person said a no word, and somehow that travels back in time and justifies said attack. Now we're going to get into this. We're going to break down exactly how these people are lying, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
The Cincinnati Police Union indicating arrests of the Caucasian people involved in the brawl downtown last month may not be coming.
The Fraternal Order of Police president released a statement today writing, quote, "Police and prosecutors say it would be extremely difficult to establish probable cause against a victim. Police have already established the white people involved as being victims." As David Winter reports, this all comes as a 7th person is arraigned for the incident, raising racial tension in a city already feeling the pressure.
So the premise of this local news segment is so patently absurd and ridiculous because you have black leaders that are outraged that all black people have been charged so far in this attack, even though all black people on video were the ones engaging in this attack. In fact, the local news segment actually cuts to a video of a white person on the floor and multiple black people from the crowd stomping on this defenseless person while he's on the ground, while at the same time telling you that it's very racially charged, that that white person has yet to be charged with, I guess, attempted or successful acceptance of a beatdown. It doesn't make any sense at all. And again, I had a freeze frame it right there, but if you want to look at the local news segments or any of the clips that I freeze frame throughout the course of this video in full context, they will be linked in the description of this video under where it says sources. They're also labeled, by the way, so they're very easy to find.
Yeah, that 7th person in court today arraigned on charges of aggravated robbery and aggravated riot, but it is who continues to not appear before a judge behind me that is continuing to cause the racial tension to rise in the city.
It's a powder keg. It's a powder keg.
The attorney for the latest African-American man arrested for what police are calling a riot is referring to the potential explosive situation building in Cincinnati. 32-year-old Gregory Wright appearing for his arraignment this morning.
While a gentleman is getting pummeled on the ground, like literally beaten in the face, we have video of Mr. Wright reaching up, grabbing a hold of the neck of the victim and jerking a chain off of his neck.
So again, I had to freeze frame the video because of YouTube's terms of service right there, but everything that was described to you by that officer is what is shown in the video. While this white person is on the ground and another black individual is punching him repeatedly in the face as he's trying to defend himself from multiple attackers from multiple angles, this individual, the one that they have arraigned, is accused of and is seen on the video, let me be clear about that, walking up to him and yanking a chain off of his neck. So this guy saw somebody who was on the ground and said, you know what, now's a good time for a little bit of robbery, and he decided to engage in said robbery. And we're being told by black leaders and politicians that, you know what, that's not the problem. That's not the issue right there, because earlier on in the middle of the fight, they heard the N-word being uttered. And I don't know if you guys know this. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but uttering those magic syllables near black people justifies absolutely anything those black people do to you afterwards. And by the way, that utterance was in the middle of the fight. They were already ganging up on him, already attacking him. It was a heated situation, and he said something that he likely should not have said. It's not cool to call people racial slurs, but in the context of you're already being attacked, it is the lowest tier concern of everybody, or at least it should be. But of course, this is not how it works with black woke representatives.
But what the judge did in the midst of the arraignment may speak volumes to the rising tension in the city.
Can we send a couple of deputies to the outside so to make sure that while I conduct this hearing, that everyone understands that everyone is to be cool, to keep it cool.
7 people have now been arrested for the melee at 4th and Elm, all of them African-American, none of them from the group of 6 Caucasian people police are calling victims.
So while they're arraigning this guy that yanked the chain off of somebody who was on the ground being pummeled by a black attacker, there are people outside protesting on behalf of this criminality, basically saying that the white guy was assaulting the black guy by hitting his fist with his head, and in reality, the white person should be charged with assault.
We as a city have blown this.
Cincinnati City Councilman Scotty Johnson.
It's time to make these charges.
And Vice Mayor Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney spoke out yesterday at a meeting of black community leaders, demanding all of those involved in the incident be charged, not just the black people.
So the local news shows us a council person and, of course, the vice mayor right there talking about how everybody needs to be charged in this particular instance, especially those evil white racist white people. And again, they don't give you the whole clips because there's more from this press conference, more people coming forward, essentially trying to make the case that the white people were the instigators for being evil white racists.
6 individuals were charged with aggravated assault, which is a felony. The white guy incited or urged 6 other people to commit a felony.
The method by which this situation has been handled raises serious questions as to whether there's bias involved in the investigation. It also brings into question the possibility of a lack of integrity and whether there's something else to hide.
Now look, I'm going to show you exactly what their argument is, and then I'm going to disassemble it without mercy because it's so absurd. But need I remind you that one of the white people that they want charged in this particular instance is a white woman in this blue dress that you have likely seen sprawled out onto the street after she was knocked out cold, who after the guy was already down was trying to prevent him from being attacked. And when she was trying to break up said fight, a black woman came from her side to attack her without her even knowing that she was coming, and then a black man squared up and punched her dead in the face, sucker punching her, by the way, knocking her out cold on the street, and her face is extremely battered and bruised, and there are multiple photos of that out there that you can look up for yourself. But honestly, I'm not trying to show you brutal aftermath of this particular violent encounter, so again, I will leave that up to you. But again, that photo or those images images are easily findable on the internet. They're saying that that woman who is knocked out cold, who is trying to break up the violent attack on the people who are on the ground, needs to be charged. There's another section of the video where a white guy is standing around and a bunch of black people jump him, knock him to the ground, drag him through the street, and we are told that those white people are to be charged because one white person, according to them, incited this whole incident, which, by the way, isn't even true. Let's go into their claim so I can expose that for you.
They were reacting to video showing one of the white victims yelling the N-word while the other appears to be gesturing for a fight, then slapping a black man before getting knocked to the ground. The remarks prompted the president of the police union, Ken Kober, to post, "Elected officials playing politics and attempting to override the professional judgment of law enforcement or prosecutors is a very dangerous precedent that undermines the rule of law."
So the local news media gives a bit more context than is actually being given by these black representatives, who are trying to make the case that the fight started with this white person uttering the N-word and then slapping a black man in a red shirt. However, I've already debunked this on this channel. I've already found a longer video, and what you find in said longer video is that the white person was already in the middle of the fight when this occurred, and you have multiple attackers from multiple different angles coming up to him, so he slapped somebody that was approaching him after they were already engaged in a fight. Now, I always leave the possibility open for more information because I'm not wedded to any specific narrative, but in reality, all of these black people who participated in this brawl need to be held accountable for those actions, because even if you had a justification for a one-on-one fight, a mutual combat situation, in reality, that's not what we see on the video. What we see is that you have one person trying to bait a fight or already throwing punches in the fight, and then a mob of other people participating in and jumping this individual. Then they attack all the white people that are around in order to basically have a good time. They're enjoying themselves. Again, I played this clip before, but you can actually see one of these individuals, after he spots a white person on the ground, jump up into the air like a wrestling move in order to land on top of him, and we're being told that the white people instigated all of this. We're being told that all these different various black people who came in from the crowd to rob chains, to stomp heads, to punch people when they were on the ground, that weren't involved in the initial altercation, were all set off by this white guy, this bald white guy, who I guess should be charged with all of the assaults, including the sucker punch against that white woman.
The defense attorney for that seventh suspect saying what's dangerous is how police are conducting this investigation.
If, in fact, you start out with the narrative that they're quote-unquote victims just based upon what you've seen in a video, that's a problem.
So look, on this channel, we give defense attorneys huge breaks whenever they release statements to the public, and the reason for that is because it's not their job to tell the truth, it's their job to advocate for their client. But the thing is, this guy's client is the chain robbing guy. Now, you can argue that there was a fight that was started and some fists need to be thrown in self-defense. That is betrayed by the video. That is betrayed by the evidence right now. But at least you can make the argument that if fists are flying, then maybe the fists that your client may have been throwing are actually defensive fists. Everybody understands that conceptually. What you can't argue, what there is no justification for, is your client waddling his fat ass over to a man who's on the ground and robbing his chain in self-defense. Are we kidding here? Is this a joke? Is this really where we're gonna go in our society right now? Are black people to be treated as if they have no agency at all whatsoever, as if they're always innocent Beba Angel Aladdins no matter what, to the point where a guy who sees somebody on the ground being attacked by multiple people goes to rob that individual, and we're gonna call that robbery self-defense? Insane. Madness in every possible way. There is no argument for this, and yet you have multiple top officials, city council people, justifying this, saying yes, that black person committing the robbery was acting in self-defense. He needed to steal that chain, otherwise he might have died from that guy on the ground. Absolute madness in every possible way. Ridiculous. And again, just imagine that we had a zebra challenge moment right here. Just imagine that that a mob of white people attacked black people, beat them while they were unconscious. A white man sucker punched a black woman who wasn't paying attention and was just trying to break up the fight. And then we were told later on that those white people robbed the black people while they were on the ground being beaten. And then you had politicians coming out and doing press conferences making the case that those robberies were in self-defense. Imagine the chaos in response to that. Imagine the rioting in response to that. Imagine the mainstream media coverage in response to that. It would be unrelenting in allegations of racism, or as the super mayor would call them, alizations.
False alizations and not facts.
Vice Mayor responded to the FOP criticism, saying the actions of the white people involved appear to be the proximate cause of the violence, and they should be charged, ending with, we should push for justice and not turn against each other.
Now again, in one of the most gaslighting or Orwellian statements of all time, the vice mayor, who was originally trying to downplay this, if you remember, and talk about the black businesses and how safe downtown Cincinnati is saying that the white people were the proximate cause of all of this. The white people existing in downtown Cincinnati just made these black people's blood boil, and they had to attack them because of that. Again, one of the most unironically racist sentiments that you could possibly express. And again, people are going to say they said the N-word. And I'm going to make this clear. The white guy definitely should not have said the N-word for two reasons. First and foremost, it's not cool to utter racial slurs. We all understand that. But two, it's not a smart idea to yell out a racial slur when you're surrounded by black people and you have politicians at the highest levels of that government willing to bend over backwards to justify black violence against white people. That is not a good idea. That makes this needlessly ambiguous for a lot of stupid people, and now you might not get the results that you want in terms of justice. And they're even again calling for charges against the white woman who was sucker punched on video trying to break up a fight. Insane madness, but this is where we are in downtown Cincinnati. These are actual arguments being put forward by people on the Cincinnati City Council, the vice mayor, and other politicians.
We should push for justice and not turn against each other.
But the fact that she said we should not turn this against each other, as she is going out of her way to racialize this, make this as divisive as possible, is again unforgivable. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Cincinnati politicians demanding that white people be charged because they were attacked. Till next time.